Hey Matt, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you, Rob?
Not too bad. We've got an extra day this week with Labor Day.
Well, those of you who have regular jobs do. Some of us aren't so fortunate.
I don't know why they call it Labor Day. That I think they should call it Relax Day.
Extra day off day.
Extra day off day. That's exactly. So you and I, man, we haven't done this kind of chat, distro chat or distro talk or whatever you want to call it in some time, and we both wound up running the new hotness in the Linux world, which is Solus 3, running it for about 2 weeks now on the family system. So actually, I'm set up on that right now, and you've been running it a little over a week.
Yeah, a little over a week. I had it. Well, I've been running it longer on another system. I recently got another system that I'm currently running it on.
Okay. So you went ahead with the Budgie desktop,
I did.
and so far,
Budgie is something that gets out of my way. I'm not quite used to that since really Unity, as much as people might want to lynch me for that. But
well, there's no comparison as far as I'm concerned with Budgie and Unity. And I went with Budgie too right out of the gate. And I have no intention of switching to Mate or Gnome, either one. Right now, Budgie for me is the absolute right mix of desktop. Like you said, it gets out of your way. It's got just enough options to let you tweak things, but it's definitely 100% focused user, which I am.
it very much is. The only thing I'm going to say about it is, now I made the comparison to Unity. What I want to say there is the getting out of your way part, because if Unity did one thing, if it threw on some IntelliHide or AutoHide, it got out of your way. That is the only comparison that you can legitimately make. The customization in Budgie is like 1,000 times more.
It's definitely better than Unity. I mean, speaking of customization, I really like the new Budgie settings panel. And, that's one of the things that a lot of the settings used to be in the Raven menu, which pops out from the right-hand side. Now that's been moved over, into their new settings panel for the desktop. And I love it. And you know what? This is one of the few OSs, Linux OSs, that I just loaded, installed, got everything set up as far as my software, and have just been using it. I haven't had to go in and tweak anything. I mean, even down to the wallpaper, I haven't changed the icon pack. The panel on the bottom's exactly, where I would want it. I mean, it truly is one of those where you can just install it. As far as I'm concerned, install it and just go.
Agree. For me, the biggest thing is, once you customize it, it's pretty much just it's set. Like that's how you want it, and you're just kind of done. Like I changed a little bit of some of the prepackaged icons. I moved the bar from the bottom to the top. Changed the wallpaper. I was done. It's not KDE, but in a way that's not a knock, but it's also a pro.
No, I'm with you. I do miss KDE. I haven't run KDE as my main in some time. But again, I'm going to go back and just say, for me, Budgie right now is just that sweet combination of just enough, not too much. It stays out of your way. It's great for a desktop user. So I'm just going to kind of recap it at that. Now, let me ask you this. Have you had to use a snap package, or have you done anything with snaps? I have not.
As far as the Snaps integration, no, I have not. We can get into the software stuff if you want.
Well, we need to, because that's one of the sore spots, a little bit of the sore spots area. And I think, well, let me just go ahead and bring this up, Matt. You and I were chatting back and forth. How long did it take you to install Chrome before there was so there's been a few updates, okay? Over the last 2 weeks, there's been a few updates. But when I first set it up, and you first set it up, how long did it sit there trying to install Chrome?
Depends which way I try to install it.
Okay.
If you do it the nice GUI way, it just hangs for me. It legitly, I waited like an hour to try to install Chrome from the third party like area in the software center. Just kept back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I go and run the commands to make the what is it, the package, the EOPKG package or whatever.
Right.
And maybe 30 seconds.
Yes. Yeah. So for the third party apps within the software center in Solus, it was hit and miss. So Chrome, same thing. It sat there. I bet I let it run for an hour just to see what would happen. Now, this was prior to a couple of updates. In fact, before you and I started this recording here, there was another update. But anyway, after a couple of updates, I went back to install Chrome, because really my intention was not to run Chrome, but I just wanted to see from a third party's perspective, hey, will this install? Because I remember in previous versions of Solus, there was an issue with, or not an issue, it would just take forever for Chrome. And so I immediately went to that, and it was the same result, man. It ran and ran and ran and ran. Now, after some of these updates, I went back and it installed, I would say in under a minute. So no issues there. Now, some of the other third-party software has installed just fine. So I don't know what it is about Chrome. I don't know if it's just because it's Google. Who knows?
We can talk about the whole Google thing a little bit afterwards if you want.
Yeah, man, oh man. Well, do you have any intention of switching over to either of the other desktops, over to GNOME or GNOME or Mate?
Answer no.
Yeah, I don't either. And I'm keeping an eye on GNOME, of course, and you see a lot of news now about the GNOME desktop because the Ubuntu, and the more I see some of the changes that are occurring and some of the things that I thought would maybe happen, not happen, the more Budgie looks like just an excellent desktop to go with.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure how I feel about some of the changes on the canonical / Ubuntu side of things. But as far as Budgie, I think it gives me the right combination of stuff that I like. We're just talking strictly desktop here.
Right.
As far as other aspects of it, it has its pros and cons like everything else, and that's really the best and worst I can say about it.
Yeah. Well, as far as the OS itself running for you, so far for me, it's been completely stable. Solus has just been rock solid. There's been, I think, 3 updates. Maybe the one today was 4. And you got the update a little before I did.
Yeah, so I turn on this particular machine I have. For those that want to know, like, specs of what I'm running Solus on, it is a ThinkPad Edge 15. It's an i3 with 8 gigs of RAM, SD, blah, blah, whatever. All Intel. Lightning quick when you install it, start up, all that stuff is great. The updates, I don't know about you. When I was updating, I was downloading at like maybe 100 kbs, and I was like, that might be a problem though, because that's a little irritating.
Yeah, no, I noticed the same thing, man. The updates were slow. I was watching it actually, just the update to the icon pack was taking, I'm like, man, something's going on here until, you mentioned something about, let me guess, the update's taking forever. So something going on there. You know what I'm thinking? Solus has, over the last 2 weeks really been in the news. I mean, there's lots of reviews. And then I think coming up on Destination Linux with Rocco and Ryan, I think they've got another meet up with Ike. And so that, but it's been in the news hot and heavy over the last couple of weeks. And, their servers are probably hammered, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess that they've been pretty hit as far as downloads and stuff. So some of it's understandable. Doesn't make any, as a user,
right?
Though, I mean, God bless Ike. I love all the work straight up. I love all the work that he's put into Budgie, Solus as an entire project. He's doing amazing things, and anybody that helps him with it, props to them too. But there are still certain niggles, and these are end user complaints. These are not because from an aesthetics point, if I'm looking at, because you and I always look at like Rocco, kind of like the aesthetics of stuff, and little weird end user things. I haven't really had any complaints there. The menu's a little wonky at times as far as hide. That's about my biggest complaint.
Well, and I'm with you there, and I agree, man. I mean, the work, Ike is full-time developing right now for Solus. So hats off to him to take that leap. And then their team has grown. They've added some additional members to the team over the last couple of months, I think. And I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome to see the news around the distro, because for whatever reason, and you and I have talked about this, just hats off to somebody who's really independent, who has, started from scratch and basically built this thing up. And, that's a lot of work, man. So that's why I'm hesitant to, it's little end user things, like you said. And there's, anytime that there are changes made to an operating system, you could have little niggles or wiggles or whatever you want to call them here and there. And so I'm not going to come down on them too hard. But again, so far it's been flawless on the system, a couple of updates. And, part of me, though, says, okay, this is just too right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I haven't had to go in or I haven't felt like I needed to go in and really tweak anything or change anything. That's all good unless you're just into doing that stuff. And I guess I could sit down and change it all up if I wanted to, but still, it's just been that good.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you said, it's been rock solid for me. Like I said, other than a few minutia, typical we're whiny end user complaints, it's been great. I haven't really tried gaming on it, so I can't really say that just because of the system it's installed on, not what you call a gaming end. But it's been really good. I do love when you update, it says discombobulating system or something.
Yeah, that always gives me a laugh too. Discombobulating something. And that's been in there for a while. That's been in Solus for a while, and but I still laugh every time I see it, man. And is there anything that stands out that you would change? Is there anything major or anything like that you would change?
There are certain. I'm always a fan of the side panels. Yeah, I've been anything from the desktop on Blycon to the desktop on Deepin. I've always been a fan of those type of floating out panels, be it So the Raven panel is great. I love it. I love the notifications. I love the fact that you can click Do Not Disturb. Great. For those that want to know, I haven't run Solus since 1.0. So it has been a long time since I've done Solus. So this has come a long, long way since the last time I tried Solus. My biggest thing that I would probably change, and again, this is just like typical end user, I install it, it does some weird things. The way the auto hide for the menu, like on the bottom or top, wherever you place the dock or whatever form you put the menu in, it's a little finicky when it actually decides to show up. So like if you move it to the top and you go to the top and it's on auto hide, sometimes like it doesn't quite detect that, hey, I'm pressing the mouse up here.
Yeah.
But that's always been a issue with any dock, or I mean, KDE's had it, Unity's had it. No, okay, GNOME works in a different way now. But there's been every version of an OS that I've used always has a problem. Windows has it too. But that's like my biggest thing. It's just like small little things. So I don't know. What about you?
Well, the only thing that I would really pick out that I would like the ability to change. So you've got applets, like most desktops we see today, but there's a folder applet, Explorer applet, that lets you jump right into places, removable devices, things like that. And that's fine. I've got it in the middle right now of the taskbar. And I like the addition of the applets. But I'm used to having, say, places, in KDE, you could put that right in the middle, and the folder size matches all the other folders that you might have in the taskbar, let's say. Well, here, because it's an applet, it's just that one size. And I'd like to see a setting to go in. Maybe there is one and I've just missed it, but I'd like to see a setting to go in and adjust the applet size, because the other thing on the system that this is on, it's a fairly large all-in-one system. The applets, if you increase the taskbar size, the applets can get a little wonky when you do that. And so I'd like the ability to go in and just kind of change the size or tweak those applet sizes enough to match either the taskbar, or if you were going to use it over in the middle of the taskbar, then you could bump up the size. That would be the only other thing that I would really pick out right now. Like I say, it's almost, and this is a bad choice of words, man, but it's almost like kind of boring, and that's terrible to say. I love it, don't get me wrong, but it's almost kind of boring because there's so little there that you have to do, because it's just so right as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. To your point with the applets, I did notice that when on the other machine that I have Solus installed on, I had shrunk it down so that it was a dock, and I think I changed the size to 32, and I had put the dock on the left-hand side. And I'm always a sucker for showing the battery percentage instead of just the bar. To show me, like, I get why aesthetically people do that, but like if you go and add the 100% or whatever your charge level is for your battery, it makes the rest of the applets, for their like sound volume and all this, they're just a little, the spacing's off almost. But again, these are like weird, like little nitpicks that I'm like, this is stuff you'd find in Windows too, or Mac or whatever. So honestly, I will say this. I almost think Solus, for me, is better than Windows or Linux, any other Linux distro, even though it might be quote unquote boring.
Well, there's another area too where the improvements are welcome, and that's in the Budgie menu. That was one area that I always just felt like, okay, you've got this really nicely done desktop, and then you got to the menu and it was kind of like, you couldn't alter anything really with it. Well, now you can. The search has been improved, and I did a proper, I guess you call it proper anyway. I did a Linux Quest review, of course, when it first came out, But since then, using it, over a period of 2 weeks, then you really start to get a real world feel for the speed and everything. And the improvements to the menu are certainly there. It's faster. There's some configuration now. And that was kind of like the last thing in Budgie that I would always kind of go, man, I'm going to switch desktops because I just can't stand this menu. And now, even that's, it does everything it needs to do or everything I need it to do. And so, just all around, I mean, and it's the age old problem, Matt. Okay, something next week will come out and everybody will be excited about it. And, you got to try it. You got to load it up. Like I know Jody James is probably working on something right now. I mean, I haven't talked to him. I hadn't talked to him in some time, but I'm sure he's working on something right now and he'll release it and it's going to be awesome. And you're going to have to like try it, but man, I just foresee this being, and my family too. I'm jumping around here, but my family, I mean, I didn't say to anyone, hey, I'm installing a new distro on a family PC. I just installed it. Well, my son comes over and he just sits down and he just starts using it. Like he didn't even know, like nobody even picked up on the fact that I had changed anything,
Well, Rob, in all honesty, does some of that have to do with the fact that you do distro hop?
Well, yeah, probably, but I know we're and listen, man, neither you nor I are wearing rose-colored glasses here. I mean, we try a lot of different distros. It's just that good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've tried when we've done some of these dual reviews before, we've tried some really oddball distros. Some that we tried, but we didn't actually end up reviewing. I'm looking at Blue Star Linux specifically. You want to talk a hot mess of an OS? There you go.
Well, and the other thing I can't speak to either, and I'm sure we'll hear from gamers or whatever. This system, it's just not set up for games. It's not powerful enough really for games. But I mean, I've just done regular desktop stuff, word processing, watching YouTube or whatever, and, just typical stuff, email or whatever. And this system is fine for that. So I couldn't speak at all to gaming, and that might be a whole nother ball of wax, And I'm also sure, Matt, that there are going to be people out there with video cards who are probably, if they're watching this saying, this is not working for their particular video card. So.
Newsflash, that's on every OS though.
Well, it really is. Yeah.
I'm not to get off on a side tangent here. I hate people who say that, oh, I don't have these issues with X OS. You're full of it. Look at any forum post for Windows, OS 10, various Linux distros. They all have issues. But no, to your point, I try. Probably me, you, and Rocco were like the first year to be like, Distro Hoppers Anonymous. Because for the longest time, I would always reload OS. And I'm one of these that I keep everything on a separate partition. So it doesn't matter the underlying, as long as I can mount the OS, the file system, it doesn't matter to me. And honestly, Solus is like the first one where it's just like, because I'm using this as my main system. Like I'm currently in the process of trying to kind of de-Googlefy my life and kind of like simplify how I do things. So for me, this is one of the first distros where I'm like, I might actually just keep this installed. And I can tell you how long it's been since I found a distro like that. The last one was Ubuntu 10.04.
Wow, you're going back, man. You are going. Well, listen, I am right there with you. In my 2 weeks in, and I don't even feel like changing it. Now, we all hit different points in our life where, either you get real busy with just life in general, and so your focus on distro hopping maybe has to change there, like mine has. So I'm just not able to been the time really distro hopping like I used to, but I've appreciated it, I think, a little more that I haven't been doing that, because now I can really, like, when someone says to me, or when someone asks me a question, how has this distro been for you? You know, distro X, just pick one. Yeah. Where before, maybe I spent 2 or 3 days using that distro, I was always reluctant to get too deep into how good it really is or how stable it has been, because I don't think 2 or 3 days is fair to say, you know, it's rock solid or it's whatever. And now, you know, like with Revenge OS, I ran that for a period of time. I ran Linux Mint for a long time. And now with Solus, running that for a long time, you know, I feel confident in saying to someone that would ask me, you know, how stable is it? How's it ran? You know, have you had any issues or whatever? I feel like I could really solidly speak to that, you know?
Yeah. That's the pro and con of being a distro hopper. Like, you can't really give great solid advice, because you have distro hoppers like you and I were somewhat, you know, we would change distros every week at least. And you finally get to a point where, like I am, or you are, or even Rocco, it's just you don't have the time to nuke and pave, or, you know, whatever. And you end up really appreciating the fact that it's just like, you sit down, you do your work, and it's done. And don't get me wrong, I love customization. I love all those aspects of Linux. But I think I'm getting to the point in my computing time where it's just like, this is somebody who uses a Remix OS device still. I just want to get crap done. I don't care.
Well, speaking of Rocco and Ryan over at Destination Linux, I think Monday's show is going to be a great show. Those guys have been doing a great job. And, you know, Ike is always fun. He's got a great sense of humor. And he doesn't hold back sometimes to, you know, as far as what's going on and what's going on in the community and plans and things like that. So I really look forward to the release. And so for anyone watching this, if you haven't heard of Destination Linux, check that out on YouTube. And there's also a podcast. I think you'll love that. And but I'm like you, man. I think this one's going to stay on here a while, you know, and I've got a couple of other machines that I may do some testing on and just leave this on the family. So who knows? We'll see. But, you know, if you've never tried Solus, just pick your desktop. I'm not saying you need to go with Budgie, although that's the one I would recommend. Definitely give this a go. I mean, you'll hear good and bad with any OS, just like you said, Matt. But this one is one of those you definitely need to try. And maybe you're one of those poor souls who has been on, maybe you're the poor soul who's been on Ubuntu for ages, and you know what's coming down the pike and you don't like it. I say give this a go, because I could see many people switching to this and being extremely happy, switching from Ubuntu to this and being extremely happy, with the exception of maybe the Software Center.
I agree with that assessment. As far as Ubuntu users, depends how much you like what version of Ubuntu we're talking. Unity guys, they might like it, they might not. Having used Unity because I had a weird particular machine that it worked well with, I think it'll be hit or miss. I think if you set up Budgie in a way that is reminiscent of Unity, it'll work. You know, because you can move the headers in. So like to close, minimize, maximize buttons, you can move all those to the left. If you could just keep the stock menu and just throw that off to the left, you're pretty much about as close as you really need to be to Unity at that point.
Yeah.
I think the menu is about 5,000 times better than the Unity Dash because, I can actually find my applications in categories.
Right. Exactly.
As far as GNOME users, vanilla, I don't know. That's hard to tell. KDE guys, you'll probably think that the there's too much of a lack of customization. GNOME users might be overwhelmed by the amount of customization because Ike adds features and doesn't take them away. So I definitely recommend Solus wholeheartedly. But would you say it's a new user distro? That's the real question.
Yeah, I would. I'd have no hesitation in with Ubuntu. With Solus Budgie, I would have no hesitation in saying to a new user, give this a try. Oh, the installation. Listen, I want to back up to that. Just a phenomenal installer, the whole setup process. So for someone new, I'd have no hesitation.
This does everything that it takes the Ubuntu, the Ubiquity installer, and simplifies it even more. I don't know how to really explain that.
Yeah.
If you're connected to the the internet or the network or whatever, it pulls in your I don't want to say your location data because somebody will think it's a big privacy thing, but it pulls in roughly where you are time zone wise.
Right.
So you end up getting your time zones already set up. So like for me, it's EST or Eastern Standard. It detected my keyboard layout as soon as I told it where I was. Like it defaulted to it. There are just some really great things where it's just like, oh, I don't have to sit there and type to tell it where what I am doing or any of this stuff. So the installer was fast, no issues. It didn't break. Unlike a lot of other distros I've tried, I burned it with Etcher, the 4 gig USB, fired right up, bam, install. 15, 20 minutes later, fully updated, installed Linux system.
Absolutely.
Bye Windows 10.
Absolutely. And all right, so back to your question again, new user. So Aunt June. Okay, Aunt June's been using Windows XP, and then she's one of those people who she's got the same computer for the last however many years. She's but now it's time to move on. She's got to do something different. And you're the guy to come in and help out Aunt June. Think about Aunt June, who's used XP all these years, and she doesn't change a thing. It's still got the original Windows XP wallpaper that came on the system.
The clouds and rolling hills.
Yeah, it's a Packard Bell system. Okay.
I cry.
It's a Packard Bell system with the same Packard Bell Windows XP wallpaper on it. Anyway, I would switch Aunt June to this in a heartbeat because I think her ability to use it just from a UI standpoint would be no problem.
I agree. The menu structure might be a little different because obviously XP is not maintained anymore unless Microsoft decides to break more crap what they do.
Oh, well, let's bump it up to Windows 7. Let's be gracious and bump it up to Windows 7.
I was going to say, can we at least go with minimum specs as far as the install is concerned? Can we go with the hardware in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Yes, I think Aunt June would be fine with this.
Yeah.
The menu organization might be a little off. I don't want to say off-putting, throw it for a loop to start. But I think once you're like, and you just simply explain, what is it? Internet, all that stuff's organized for you in the category of where it goes.
Right.
It's like opening a drawer. You just open it. It's like, oh, this is where that goes, and that I think you'd be good to go.
Yep. Well, Matt, I guess we'll wrap it up, man. And, this has been fun. We haven't done this in a while, so it's been fun. But again, I'll just throw a shout out to Destination Linux podcast and YouTube channel. Check out Rocco and Ryan, especially on Monday's release. I think it's going to be, especially if you're, semi-interested or interested in Solus, then this will be one to catch for sure. So, man, have a great rest of the weekend.
You too, bud.
All right. See you later.